You won't believe what my HOA did. They blocked my creek with a massive slab of concrete. Yes, you heard that right. A beautiful, natural creek that ran through my property, suddenly dammed up by my own neighborhood association. My name is Mark, and this is the story of how my fight to save a tiny creek turned my HOA's pristine neighborhood into an unexpected wetland. It all started a few months ago. I bought my house specifically because of the small creek that trickled through the backyard. It was my little slice of nature, a peaceful escape. I'd sit out there for hours, just listening to the water. Then one morning, I woke up to the sound of heavy machinery. I looked out my window and saw a construction crew pouring a huge concrete barrier right across the creek, just on the edge of my property line where it flowed into the common area. I was furious. I ran out and demanded to know what was happening. The foreman, a guy who clearly didn't want to be there, just shrugged and handed me a letter from the HOA. It was a generic notice about waterway management and erosion control. It claimed the creek was a liability and was causing soil erosion in the downstream common area. They didn't consult me, didn't ask for permission, they just did it. They completely cut off the natural flow of water. For the next few days, I watched in horror as the water level behind the concrete slab started to rise. My once charming creek was turning into a stagnant, murky pond. The water had nowhere to go. My beautiful backyard was becoming a swamp. Mosquitoes started breeding like crazy, and a lovely smell of decay began to waft towards my house. I tried reasoning with the HOA board. I sent emails, made phone calls, and even showed up to one of their meetings. They were completely dismissive. The board president, a woman named Karen, and yes, I knew I couldn't let this go. This wasn't just about my backyard, it was about the principle. They had destroyed a natural habitat without any due process. So, I started doing my research. I spent hours online, looking up local environmental regulations, water rights, and property laws. And that's when I found it. A county ordinance that specifically protects natural waterways and requires a permit for any kind of alteration. A permit I was pretty sure my HOA never bothered to get. This was the opening I needed. I called the county's Environmental Protection Department. I explained the situation, sent them pictures of my new backyard swamp, and a copy of the HOA's letter. The woman on the phone was incredibly helpful. She sounded genuinely concerned and promised to send an inspector out. The very next day, a county official arrived. He took one look at the concrete monstrosity and the backed-up water and just shook his head. He pulled out a tablet, started taking notes, and muttered something about an authorized stream alteration. This is where it gets really good. The inspector didn't just look at my property. He followed the original path of the creek downstream, through the HOA's prized common areas. The very areas they were supposedly protecting. What he found was that their little concrete dam hadn't stopped the water. It had just rerouted it. The backed-up water had found a new path of least resistance, seeping underground and bubbling up all over the place. The HOA's perfectly manicured greenbelts, the walking paths, and the community park was slowly turning into a marsh. Puddles were forming everywhere. The ground was squishy and saturated. The inspector's report was a masterpiece. It detailed multiple violations of county and state environmental codes. The HOA was hit with a massive fine and a compliance order. Remove the concrete barrier immediately and restore the creek to its original condition. Not only that, but they were also ordered to pay for a full environmental impact study and a remediation plan for the damage they caused to the downstream ecosystem. The best part: the remediation plan meant that large sections of their precious common areas had to be dug up to install proper drainage and replant native wetland vegetation. Their neighborhood, for the foreseeable future, was officially a designated wetland. The cost of all this was astronomical. and it was going to come directly from the HOA's budget, meaning everyone's HOA fees were about to skyrocket. Karen, the board president, had to send out a very sheepish email explaining the situation. The fallout was immense. An emergency meeting was called, the entire board was voted out, and I got a personal apology. The concrete barrier is gone now, my creek is flowing freely again, and my backyard is slowly returning to normal. As for the HOA's neighborhood, it's now a series of interconnected bogs and swales. It's actually quite beautiful in its own way, full of cattails and birds. They wanted to manage a waterway, and well, they got one, a much, much bigger one than they ever bargained for. Sometimes, you just have to let nature take its course. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this little tale of petty revenge and ecological justice, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time.